Well, guys, I'm back and I'm beefing. And the reason I'm beefing is because you know that age-old intrinsic formula that we all know, the working out plus protein equals muscle formula? Well, I'm here to talk about that center portion, that protein. So in order to make this video efficient, first I need to talk about what proteins are made out of. They are made out of these things called amino acids. And amino acids, there are indispensable or essential, which means you need them through your diet. You can't make them, your body can't make them on its own. And there are 9 of those. And then there are 11.
12. They're actually 12.
Non-essential, or ones that your body can make and you don't necessarily need to consume. What amino acids in general do is they create peptides, which then create polypeptides, which are actually proteins. So now that we have that out of the way and we have my beef off of the burner, we can go over the 3 factors that are going to aid us on this journey of figuring out the appropriate amount, quality, and timing of protein. Actually, those are the 3 factors So, the first and most important aspect of protein for muscles is quantity. Quantity, in order to just survive, the recommended daily allowance is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. And what we need actually for muscle gain is double that on the lower end. So 1.6 grams of protein per kilograms of body weight per day. And that can go all the way up to 2.2 grams per kilogram of protein. That can go all the way up to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, or the infamous just eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day, bro. And there's actually been a study done, and it was over the course of a year where people were eating even more than that, up to double that amount. So 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. And this was in resistance trained individuals, and they found no adverse effects on the liver function or kidney function in those people. So take that for what it's worth. So the long and the short of it is just stick to that 1 gram per pound of body weight per day. Unless you're poor like me, and then you can eat a little less. Just experiment, you know, it's up to you. Moving on to the next factor that influences. Moving on to the next factor that influences this muscle gain via protein is quality. And this is the most complicated, so get your nerd cap on, because I'm gonna go a little nerdy on you on here right now. So buckle up. The current system in use to understand the quality of protein is actually the DIAS system, or the digestible, indispensable amino acid scoring system, which is short for, essentially, they have this panel of amino acids. They say you need to get this amount of each of the amino acids per gram of protein. And what we're going to do is we are going to compare that to how digestible whatever protein we're giving to this pig. So yeah, they used pigs to determine DIAS because you don't want to cut open a human's stomach and then shove a bag in there and collect food from the end of their small intestine, or mostly digested food from the end of their small intestine. Don't worry, they did that with pigs. Anyways, you measure the amount of essential amino acids before eating, and then after it went all the way through the digestive, not all the way through the digestive system, but all the way to the end of the small intestine, and then you see how much came through, and based on that number you can see how digestible it was, and then you can compare it to the DIAS profile, and whatever amino acid gets the lowest score, that is what the food gets. So 80% lean beef, for instance, gets a DIAS score of 1.02 because its limiting essential or indispensable amino acid is valine, which means that 80% lean beef has 102% of the ideal amount of valine and higher percentages for every other essential amino acid. And when we're talking about protein quality here, animal products tend to have a higher DIAS score because they have the amino acids in the appropriate ratios and at higher rates, the essential amino acids at higher rates than do the vegetables. And as you can see from this augmented chart, I mapped out the recommended amino acid scoring pattern for adults according to the DIAS system. And if you compare them to all of the different animal foods, you can see that there are going to be limiting amino acids for a lot of the non-animal foods, which means that they're going to be scoring under 100. Over 100 is considered an excellent protein source. Under 100, but above 75 is considered a good protein source, and under 75 is not considered. To all the vegan and vegetarians, I didn't look up the definition, so forgive me. Either vegans or vegetarians can eat eggs, and so I don't know. But for the vegans and vegetarians, it's not really fair because this scoring system caps the score at the limiting amino acid, and they may have a pretty good profile except for one limiting essential amino acid. Essential. So this is where finding complementary proteins is really important, especially if you are not consuming animal products, because you can eat rice and you can eat beans, rice being low in lysine and beans being low in methionine. They get to balance each other out and it all works out great, except for generally vegetable proteins are a little bit harder to absorb. They're about 10 to 20% less absorbable because of that fiber.
And also, just in general, vegetables contain a smaller portion of protein to other macronutrients versus animal products.
There's also one last thing I didn't mention, and that's the difference between fast digesting and slow digesting protein. It is optimal to eat fast digesting protein when your muscle needs it most. So that would be around workout times, and then you can eat the slow digesting protein whenever else. Finally, moving on to timing. 4 meals a day, 4 meals is optimal, and you should spread your protein out pretty evenly throughout those 4 meals. So if you're eating 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day, you're eating 0.25 grams of protein per pound of body weight per meal. And these meals should generally be spaced out to between 3 to 4 hours apart. Although we all know people who do intermittent fasting, maybe we don't all know people who do intermittent fasting, but we've all seen people who do intermittent fasting.
Since I was 6 years old, I wanted to crack.
And they end up looking shredded. So I'm assuming they get in enough protein and they just have a shorter eating window, which you could entirely do. But if you're gonna do a shorter eating window, you want to make sure you're also spacing out those meals in order to get spikes in muscle protein synthesis, because that's what happens when you eat protein. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I came across a study where some old ladies were doing some grip strength exercises, and a group was eating a lot of protein in the morning, another group was eating a lot of protein in the evening, and they found that the group that was eating protein in the morning actually had more grip strength at the end. So think about that. I actually took that study to heart, and I've been eating more protein in the mornings because, I want to be a strong old lady. Mainly, make sure you eat enough protein. 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, or 0.75 grams of protein, roughly, to about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. Then, of course, make sure you're focused on quality protein. Quality protein is generally animal products. And if you're going to eat plant proteins, make sure you're mixing in order to be able to complement those proteins so you're not missing out on one of the essential amino acids. And then of course, timing. You don't really have to worry about timing. Eat protein when you can, but it's best to not eat a bunch of protein snacks. It's best to eat meals, and it's best to spread them out over the course of the day, or if you're gonna do a shorter feeding window, maybe like over the course of 8 hours. And then of course, don't forget, you wanna be as strong as your grandma, so make sure you're eating more protein in the morning. And forgive me, there were actually 3 things I didn't cover. You want to make sure you're in a calorie surplus, okay? If you're not in a calorie surplus, your body is going to use the protein that you are eating to fuel yourself. Second, carbs are inherently anti-catabolic. That means they help your body not break down muscle. When you eat them, your body is less inclined to break down muscle. And where is the can opener? Here it is. And of course, the last thing is make sure you get enough sleep. You want to be getting quality sleep, because if you don't get quality sleep, you are not going to appropriately recover from those intense workouts, and you're not going to be putting that protein to good use. So definitely get in that sleep. All right, come over here and check this out. I made this the other night. This was, this was beef and beans. I'm only doing 2 meals a day, so this is gonna be good. I'm just gonna put some cheese on top and some seasonings.